The next condition is transfer pricing. It's where we have a company that has different divisions that do different things in sequence to each other. So in this example by the photos, we have an engine manufacturing on the top, and the engine might go into a car on the bottom. So transfer pricing is at what price does the engine division sell to the assembly division? And there's a very clear answer to this economically. It gets messed up in real life because of things like profit measures by division as opposed to profit measures for the whole company. But there is an economic right answer for this, and we'll look at this now. So in this case, let's say we have two divisions: upstream, which is the provider of key input, like the engines; downstream, which uses that. The upstream division has some power because they might be able to charge more money to the downstream division. So they might be tempted to price it with a profit. So similar exists for the downstream, where they might want to have a different price for their product. Both will then do markups over the marginal costs, resulting in a phenomenon called double marginalization, where we're stacking profit on top of profit inside of a company. So the transfer pricing formula that we should use is to overcome this double marginalization. The rule requires that the upstream division produces such that the marginal cost, MCU, equals the net marginal revenue, NRMD, to the downstream division. And it's captured below. Marginal revenue minus marginal cost. The next scenario is where there's intense price competition. One of the methods to use to combat this is price matching. Price matching is where they advertise that any consumer can buy it and from them, and they will match or guarantee that it's a low price. So what happens here is we try to capture the sale and hope that that is the market clearing price. For those who shop further and come back and make us pay a difference, we are happy to do so, but others may not, in which case we got the sale at perhaps not the lowest price. The outcome, which is interesting, is what if all the firms adopt this policy, then they all could end up coincidentally charging a monopoly price and therefore earn monopoly profits. So this is not the same as competition where every single provider of the product is fighting against each other, against their own revenue and cost situations to get the lowest perfect competition price. So those are the issues with this, but that's how price matching works, and it's very effective. You've seen this probably in many types of products that you may be considering. Some issues along the way is, what if there's a false claim? Customer comes to your place and say, hey, I could buy this down the block at $100. Like, how would you react to that? You could counter that by saying, show me a printed ad that shows that they have it, and they also must still have it in stock. So I may call them to say, hey, do you have this product for $100? And if they're out of stock, it's not a valid price because you can't buy one at $100. The next is the competitors with lower cost structures would have a pretty big advantage here, where they could conceivably drive other competitors out of the market. The next approach is to look at brand loyalty. In this case, like advertising, like Chanel, they would build brand loyalty through advertising, and that might mitigate some of the lowering of prices across similar products. The other is to have brand loyalty through loyalty programs, things such as Mileage Plus for United Airlines. The other approach to deal with intense price competition is to randomize pricing. The pictures here are 3 places you could buy your bananas and your milk. So you could go from store to store to store with your shopping list and write down each of the prices for each of the items. And one day, Safeway might be less, Kroger the other, the next day Lucky. So that would then make it difficult for you to know where to buy your product because there's some randomness to it. Because the next day, the bananas and the milk might be at different prices again. And it also causes difficulty for a competitor to undercut your prices. If you're so predictable to know the markup that you have in your store, your competitors could know that and then price theirs accordingly. So randomness makes it more difficult for them to know how to base their pricing. So randomness has an effect on the customer side and an effect on the competitor side. I guess it's confusion, right? Because of the inefficiency of information. The net result is this may not always be profitable because you're going to be tinkering with your margin with this particular pricing strategy anyway. So summarizing chapter 11, we looked at the basic elasticity-based market formulas to look at how you might price one product. We also looked at some mechanisms to capture the consumer surplus. Those were price discrimination, two-part pricing, block pricing, and commodity bundling. Then we looked at some specific instances where the cost or demand structures give you other opportunities, such as peak load pricing, cross subsidies, and transfer pricing. And finally, we looked at markets with intense price competition, and therefore we could do price matching, randomized pricing, or brand loyalty programs. These are different mechanisms. So that wraps up chapter 11, and I will see you in class.